I pressed record.
Start. Yay, fabulous. Okay, fantastic. Thanks everybody for joining us this evening. The second of our 3 additional skills calls that we've set up. So we're on to another way of improving customer gathering and recruits. And we've got the amazing, wonderful, fantastic Hannah Graver, who is a group leader, been in the business for 4 years now, Hannah.
Yeah.
And 200 plus, and Hannah put 160 of those personal customers down to networking and referrals. So I mean, it's absolutely amazing. Before those 160 customers, Hannah had never touched a Winner Mini or a neighbour letter or anything else. So it was literally all through networking and referrals. And still 80%, I think I've got that right, Hannah, of your customers and new recruits now are from networking and referrals too. So we would all love to hear some fantastic tips from you this evening as to how this works for you.
Okay. Right. So networking you might not think is for you. I think sometimes people think it sounds really scary and you need to be all suited and booted. But I think the only thing I would say is, like anything, like Winner Minis and neighbour letters, just give it a go. And if it's not for you, at least you can say you've given it a go. So what I'm going to run through tonight is the different types of networking there is. If there's time, I will cover referrals, but we do a whole Sunday night call on referrals as well. So I'm going to use this mainly for networking, although we are going to add networking to the list of the Sunday night calls because this has brought to my attention that it's something that needs to be covered. So to start off with, there's lots of different types of business networking. There are formal networking groups, which you might hear called BNI, things like that, and Bob, which is business over breakfast. And those sorts of groups, they only allow one person per profession or trade into the group, and you usually have to pay quite a bit of money to be a member of that group. But what it means is you've got exclusivity. So the people in that group are only going to refer to you as a utility warehouse person rather than anybody else. Some of the more informal networking groups, which women in particular quite like to start off with, because we have got this kind of idea of business networking being lots of grey suits and quite intimidating. And, you know, don't get me wrong, it is. I'm a very strong-skinned woman, and I have been kind of in networking for a while. So, you know, it can be quite intimidating. So the sort of ladies who latte, ladies networking groups and all that sort of stuff are a really great place to start, I think. I personally, when I first started being self-employed, utility warehouse side many years ago, I was a virtual PA. And I did go to lots of sort of ladies networking groups to start with whilst I kind of got my confidence up, because I found it can be quite a lonely place when you're working for yourself. Utility warehouse is very different because we're not on our own. But it's great for just genuinely making friends and, you know, in this kind of scary world of being self-employed. So they're a really great way to get your toe in. And also I know that breakfast networking is not for everyone, especially for mums. It's very difficult. I struggle with Will being away so much. So it means someone coming over to look after Henry at 5:30 in the morning. It's not easy. So the ladies kind of networking groups and mums in business and all that sort of stuff are normally brunch, so like 10 or 11 o'clock in the morning or over lunch. And then there are some evening, like twilight networking groups as well. So it's all going to vary as to your area. And I would just start by Googling business networking and then your area. So I would do business networking Hythe, business networking Folkestone, or wherever it is you are, and loads of things will come up. The other great search facility to use is Facebook as well, because most of them have got Facebook groups. So you could have a little search on Facebook for ladies networking wherever you are. And then just get in touch with the organiser and ask to come along. They're never going to say no for new people to come along. With networking, much like utility warehouse, it is a slow burn. So it's all about building relationships. And we talk about this in utility warehouse all the time, making friends for the sake of making friends. With business networking, you'll find that the people who do it have normally been doing it for a long time, and they can smell a rat a mile off. So if you go in there ready to just rip it apart and get loads of business and then bugger off, they will be able to tell that straight away. So if you're not a genuinely nice person who wants to do good for other people, networking might not be for you, because it's all about not I scratch your back, you scratch mine. It's not really like that. It's all about basically helping. So if I give you business, you will probably more likely to go out there and go, oh, Hannah's given me a really nice recommendation, or she's used my business, or she's used my shop. I want to now go and help her. So it's all about genuinely building relationships and making friends. Now, as an example of this, I do BNI, so that's the breakfast networking where only one person per profession can join. So I'm the only utility warehouse person in there, and I have been for 4 years. And I now get to the stage where I probably get 2 really good quality referrals per week from that group. But it's all about the effort that I put in over the 4 years of building relationships with people, getting to know them, building up their trust, knowing that I'm not going to let them down. That's the other thing, you regularly meet with these people when you're networking, and you're going to have to look them in the eye. If they've sent you a recommendation, they've sent you a referral, and you haven't looked after that person well, you're going to have to go and see them next week or next month, and you're not really going to be able to face them if you haven't looked after the person that they've sent your way. So it's really, really important that you do go the extra mile. So it can feel like a lot of effort and a lot of time. But now, if you think sort of 4 years later from being in networking, I'm kind of sitting back not doing anything, and the referrals are coming in. Much like utility warehouse, when you build a big team, you sit back and the money comes in. Networking is very similar, and I always liken networking to utility warehouse for that reason. So when you turn up at these meetings, you're probably going to get a chance as well to do what they call a 60 seconds presentation normally, or an elevator pitch, you might call it being called. And elevator pitches are basically, imagine you're in a lift, you're going from 0 to floor 5, Richard Branson's in there and he says, tell me about your business. So that's basically what it's all about. You've got 60 seconds to tell the room about your business. So be prepared for that. And that's something I can help you with as well. On that note, Wes has written a really great book about networking with Stefan. And that's, that covers kind of all the basics of etiquette, like make sure you look good. I always think turn up to imagine how you want to look or want to act for your best customer. So imagine someone gave you a referral for your very, very best customer. How would you turn up? So I dress fairly smart, make sure the car's clean, all that sort of stuff, because you're going to make, it's all about making good impressions of people. But it's all about, farming and not hunting and building those relationships. So that is networking in a nutshell, which is formal business networking. However, I still think you can do networking outside of a formal setting that's specifically for business. So the school playground is networking. If you've got a dog, walking your dog is networking. Going to clubs with your kids is networking. All those sorts of things. Any kind of clubs that you go to, any chance that you get to regularly meet people, basically. And you wouldn't just go on a dog walk, meet someone, and then suddenly start spewing utility warehouse all over them. And you wouldn't do that in formal business networking either necessarily. You'd want to find out all about them. Like Wes always says, be interested first and interesting second. So, just like Alex, we know Alex has built her business her first sort of 18 months just by making friends for the sake of making friends, going to places specifically to meet new people. And you can do networking in that way all the time. And I think, we are born natural networkers. Like my son comes out of school all the time with a recommendation that a friend has given him. When he goes and makes friends, he makes sure he makes friends with people who have got cool stuff, like have got cool families. You're doing that all the time. So you can do that in the school clubs. You can do that. You're sitting on the side of a pool and your kids are swimming. Rather than sitting on your phone and looking at Facebook, make conversation with people around you, because you're going to be seeing these people potentially every week. And you want to be that person that people want to talk to because you're asking questions about them, you're interested in them. And this is all covered in the 5 levels of formality, probably level 4, I guess. People who you see regularly, but you couldn't really just go and say, oh, I've started this business, I'd love to run it past you, because you don't really know them. So it's about getting to know them to the point where they then say, what is it that you do? And you can make your response something that presses on the hot button that you've already found out about because you've been making friends with them and getting to know them over weeks or months or whatever it is. Again, it's a slow burn. but you want to be the sort of person that people come to. So when I'm out walking the dog and someone says, oh, do you know a good dog groomer? I will recommend a good dog groomer that Teddy goes to, and then they'll go and have a good experience. And then I'm the person to come to when they need a good recommendation. I'm that person who's really trustworthy and helpful. So when the opportunity arises for me to talk to them about Utility Warehouse, they're going to trust me because I've built up that relationship with them where I'm that go-to person. And you can do that on Facebook as well. You know, Alex does that kind of conversation all the time. People are looking for recommendations, give them a recommendation for something, because then when they're looking for recommendations for broadband and you hop on and say, I can help you with that, it's not the first time you've given them a recommendation. And the first one went really well, so why wouldn't this one? So that's why, you know, social networks, that is networking. It's just that we need to make sure it's social and not antisocial by making ourselves all about us. We've got to make sure always it's all about everybody else. So we do another call on social media because there's just so much to cover on that as well. So the ethos really of networking is the same as referrals. It's the same as just generally talking to people. It's about being trustworthy, about being the go-to person, and about saying and doing what you said you're going to do when you said you're going to do it. And that's the thing you've got to make sure, because the tiny little glitch in your armour when you turn up to networking and you're in a bad mood and you're grumpy can really kind of destroy all the relationships and trust in your character that you've built over those years or weeks or whatever it is. And that's the same as asking for referrals. And I know Danielle and I speak about this a lot, we have done recently. The system that we teach in getting referrals, I will do a whole Zoom call on that. But basically, you have to introduce the referrals at the beginning of the presentation when it first talks about referrals. That whole presentation has been made for you to come away with referrals. So the mindset of going into that presentation, in my opinion, you need to maximise the time that you've spent in getting that appointment. So you might spend 3 hours on a winner mini stand to get an appointment, or you might spend in total an hour posting and following up neighbour letters, or you might have spent a few hours in networking to get this appointment. So you want to maximise the time that you've already spent getting that appointment. Now sometimes we're like, yes, we've got an appointment, let's just get in there, let's get a customer and get out. But in my opinion, you want to maximise the time you're in there. And you need to go in with a mindset of, my job here is to get access to this person's contacts. That is what network marketing is, and this is what the industry we're in. We're in the network marketing industry. And network marketing is getting access to other people's contacts. So we do that in our presentation Utility Warehouse by either getting them to join the team, and then we have access to their contacts, or by getting them to give us referrals, and then we have access to their contacts. So if you go in with a mindset of, I'm here to get access to this person's list, and then if you happen to get a customer out of it as well, great. But what your kind of primary focus is to either get referrals, really to get a team member, and then your second option would be to get referrals. So it's really important that we bring that up at the right time in the beginning of the appointment. We get out the referral book like we say we're going to do. Do you want me to go into that now, Danielle? Do you think that would be too much detail?
Yeah, that'd be amazing, actually. I think that would be great if you could. I think that would really benefit people, because I think a really good point to make, there are lots of people on the call who are fairly new to business, and I think perhaps they kind of think, they hear about referrals and think, oh, you know, that's something that I can kind of get the hang of later. But actually, this is one skill that if you've mastered it from the beginning, you know, this will be such an asset to your business. So I think it is a skill that, you know, people early on really need to get to grips with. So that'd be great if you could.
Definitely. And just to say, if you haven't started it yet, don't worry, because I didn't actually implement the referral system until I was had over 100 customers. So if you have already got customers and you haven't implemented the referral system, you can go back to your existing customers, do a little customer review, and then do this referral system there and then as well. So the referral system that we teach is to walk away with names and numbers on the day. And the way that we do that, and if you miss any part of this out, it will not work. So on the second slide, when it talks about referrals, so we've grown our whole business by recommendation. We don't spend any money on advertising. And the great thing about that is we can pass the savings on to the customers. However, we will then rely on our customers recommending us onto their friends and family. And the great thing about that is you're only going to recommend stuff if you like it. So everything we do is to make sure the customer is put first, which is completely different to any other utility company. We're putting you first, and we give you loads of extra cool stuff so you're more likely to talk about us. And then we reward you with either shopping vouchers or an extra income every time you recommend us on, because we rely on it so heavily. So it's really important at that point to labour the point about referrals. And then I just say, right, so I'm just going to get out my really complicated referral system. I get out my little pad, and it's just got 3 columns. It says name, number, and referred by. And in there, it's got loads of names and numbers. Some of them are crossed out, some of them are highlighted, some of them are just names and numbers. So this is how it works. At the end of the appointment, assuming you're happy with everything you see, I'll just pass you my book, and you can jot down the names and numbers of the people that you're bound to think of as we go through the presentation who would really like this. Because if you like it, then the chances are your friends and family will like it as well. Now, what happens is I don't call any of those people until you've told me they're happy to receive my call. So I will give you a few things to say to them. If they're happy to receive my call, great. If they're not, I'll cross out their name in my book, and I show them some names and numbers that are crossed out. I will cross out their name and number in my book, and I will never darken their door, because we're not allowed to do cold calling, and I don't want to do cold calling. That's not what this business is about. It's all about recommendation. And then I've got in my referral book loads of the highlighted ones, and they're the ones that have become customers. And I just flick through the book and say, you know, as you can see, this is how it works. I would have no business if it wasn't for this system. So that's how it works. And then I just pop the pad on the table and I carry on. So just going through it, I don't do anything cringy like, so who else do you know who you'd like free light bulbs? Because I just think it's a bit like obvious and a bit cringy. But if they then go, oh, that's really good, isn't it? I'm like, yeah, it's great. Or if they say, oh, so-and-so would like this, I just say, oh, wait for that. And I just tap the book and say, we'll do that at the end. Like, don't worry about it, we'll do that at the end. So just carry on going through until that slide comes up again at the end. So that's the customer side of things wrapped up. And now this is when it gets really, really exciting. Because I mentioned at the beginning, it's all about recommendation. And because we rely on that so heavily, we reward you. So we've got the shopping voucher option. If you're happy to introduce me to your friends and family and I'll do the presentation for you, then we give you shopping vouchers, and I explain the shopping voucher system. However, if you'd rather do the presentation, we pay you in real money instead. So this video explains a little bit about that. So I show the next video, then the simple money presentation comes up, and that's when you ask that question. So how much money per month would make a difference to you? And then they tell you, and it's normally £500. And you can say, well, you can see here, if you want to do what I do, that's like 1 customer every 10 days. So it's like an hour and a half every 10 days, and that's an extra £500. So that's how the money side of it works. So you've got the shopping vouchers, or you've got the money. And then last slide, so which benefits you? Saving money, making money, or both. So you basically put in their head, they're either going to join your team and get some money, or they're going to give you the names and numbers. Sign them up as a customer. It's really important, just as an aside, that when you're going through the sign-up process, you just make it as simple as possible, because the last thing you want to do is plop a seed in someone's mind. They could earn an extra 500 quid for, 6 hours work a month, doing 1 customer every 10 days, and then just make the sign-up process the most complicated thing ever and talk about all the detail and all the word. And they're thinking, there's no way I'll never be able to remember all the stuff that expert lady remembers. So it's really important to make this bit really quick, easy, and simple. It's basically their first training. At the end, if they say that they don't want to make money, they just want to save money, that's cool, you've got a customer number. And then I normally say something like, would it be all right if I went and used your loo? And I will just leave you with my referral book. And then I just kind of leave them to it. Or if you've had to go to the loo during the appointment because you've had too much tea, I just kind of turn my iPad away a little bit and go, right, I've just got to sort something out here. So whilst I'm doing that, I'll just let you fill in my referral book. And I just kind of push that to them open with a pen. And you can, depending on how comfortable you feel with it, how confident you're getting with it, Because you'll find when it works the first time, you get a little bit cocky. You're like, oh, brilliant, I've got this now. And you can add more and more bits in. So if they start to kind of run out of people to think of whatever, you could give them prompts like, you know, have you got your best friend down there? Are your parents local? Do you get on with your neighbours? Is there anyone that you work with? Like, you can give them a few prompts. But my advice would be first just to get it done as simply as possible and get some names and numbers down. Because once you've done it once, that confidence will really grow. And then because in your head, you're like, oh, this works, therefore you'll do it more. It's like dieting. If you do it and it works, then you're going to do it more. If it doesn't, then you won't. So that's how the referral bit works. And then you need to tell them what to say. So I normally say, oh, brilliant. So most people give me, at some point, at the beginning, I say most people give me about 5 names. So you'll get about 5 names. And just to give you a bit of a reality check, probably 1 in 3 will want to see you. So if you get to the point you get 6 names and numbers and you're really excited, and by the time you get back to that person, only 2 people can see you, don't worry, that's about normal. So 1 in 3 will want to see you. But the great thing is, I find that when you're on that referral train, so say, for example, this week, Nicola referred me to Nicholas. It's actually true. And Nicholas was actually pretty much pre-sold because Nicola is his friend and she's the sort of person, he said, oh, if she does it, I'll definitely do it. So that's why it works really well, because they've done the work for you just by being friends. You're not a stranger that's come into the home to recommend something, or you're not a friend who's just started doing something and getting paid for it, and sometimes people are a little bit funny about it. You're completely out of it, and that the person that's recommended them has basically done the work for you. That third party recommendation is really, really important. So it's a much, much easier sign up. And of course, because they're a referral, they know they're going to be expected to refer. So it's easier to get referrals out of them as well. So I get the names and numbers out. It's really great. I'll tell you what to say to them in a bit. How soon can you speak to these people? How soon creates urgency, not how long do you need to speak to these people. How soon are the 2 words, and they're just 2 magic words to use in all your conversations. So how soon can you speak to them? So where are we now? Wednesday. I could probably speak to them by Friday. Now this is really important, and this is like a really important hidden element. Please put it in your diary, and please ring them and follow up when you say you're going to follow up, because this is something that we talked about the other day, isn't it, Danielle? You've got to do what you say you're going to do, when you say you're going to do it, because this is all about trust. They're basically trusting you to go to their friends and family's homes. They're not trusting Utility Warehouse. They're trusting you personally to go into their friends and family's home. If I recommended a restaurant to someone and they didn't enjoy it, I would feel bad. I'd be like, oh no, I didn't cook the food, but I would feel bad because I was like, oh, go there, it's really nice. And so if you're expecting these people to recommend you, you've got to make sure that they trust that you're going to look after their friends and family. And the way that they build up that trust is by you doing what you said you were going to do when you said you were going to do it. If it comes to Friday and they don't get that call, it's totally subconscious. They won't be sitting there going, that bloody Danielle didn't phone me. I knew I couldn't trust her. She's a con artist. They won't be thinking like that, but it will just be a little subconscious thought in their mind. And if they suddenly think, well, hang on a minute, she didn't follow up on that. Maybe she wasn't telling the truth about her customer service. Maybe she wasn't telling the truth about the witch wards. And they start to doubt everything that you have done. So every little bit of work you've done in building rapport and showing them the presentation and everything else just starts to chip away subconsciously without them realising it into them trusting you. So it's really important that you put it in your diary and you follow them up. And of course, if they haven't got around to it, it's fine. Just do the process again. Okay, no worries. How long do you need? How soon? Blah, 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 blah. Now, there's 5 things you need to tell them. And I always say to them at this point, look, this is where it all goes wrong. Because you're going to phone up and all your friends and family are going to be like, that sounds really boring. So can you please be excited? Can you please do it over the phone rather than text? And can you please keep it simple? Because it's my job to tell you what it's all about. So just let them know, I'm really nice, I've saved you money, and I made it really simple. And just to give it a go and have a listen and see what you can do. So just keep it really simple. You don't want people to start blabbering on about everything, because that is the little bit, that's normally where it goes wrong. So if you find you're getting the names and numbers, but none of them want to see you, then maybe you just need to tweak what you say for them to say. But that's the referral process. Now, that is how to get referrals on the day. Danielle, I expect you're like me. Do you get referrals randomly out of the blue from existing customers that you signed up a couple of years ago? Are you there? Did you hear me?
It's breaking up quite a lot, lovely. Say that again.
Do you randomly get referrals out of the blue from existing customers that you signed up years ago?
Yes, absolutely. They're the best ones.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's because you spend loads of time building rapport, building trust in that relationship, and going the extra mile for your customers and doing that extra bit of customer service. So I know there are people out there who are really good at getting referrals on the day, but that's probably where it stops. Whereas if you really go the extra mile and make sure everyone's looked after, you will randomly get referrals all over the place. And I get, on average, I worked it out earlier, I get 2 a week just randomly out of the blue, on average. From the existing customer. Obviously, I've got quite a big customer base, so the ratios are quite not great, but that is just because I've made sure I've been that person, that go-to trustworthy person, either through networking or through my existing referrals. So that's really important, just about that integrity and building the trust. So I think I've nattered on for 25 minutes. Danielle, is there anything that I said I was going to cover that I haven't?
I don't think so. I was just thinking, actually, so people who have asked for referrals in the past, who have followed that system, I'm sure will have come across a couple of objections when they're trying to get the referrals. So I just thought it might just be nice to cover quickly. So let's just say they've got the referral book in front of them, and you've just said to them, I'm just going to pop to the loo, whatever. Just before you pop to the loo, they said, I can't possibly give you any referrals. I need to speak to them first. So okay. What would you say to that?
I don't really get that very much. And okay. I think it's because at the very beginning, I say, look, let me just show you how this works. And I make sure I use language like that. This is how it works. Because they don't know any different. We think sometimes like, we're going in there, I can't possibly ask for referrals or show them the business because they think I'm here to save them money. They don't know why you're there. They don't know what they're going to see. They don't know what you're meant to say. And it's exciting. So, make it exciting. So I just say, look, this is how it works. This is the referral system. I promise I won't call anybody unless they're happy to receive my call. And ever since I've done it that way, I don't think I've ever had that happen. But if it did, and I'd stuck to the script, if it did happen, I wouldn't push it. Again, because I think you can really ruin, I think you can really ruin all that kind of hard work of building that trust by then kind of turning into someone a little bit pushy, and you probably won't get any referrals, and you probably won't get any referrals like later on in life either. Whereas I found, if that does happen when I probably wasn't sticking to the script properly, and I'll say, no, don't worry, that's fine. I probably have got some referrals out of that person, maybe a few months later or a year later, because I wasn't pushy. And it's the same with signing people up. I never push anyone into doing something to benefit me. And when I've done that, they've been really surprised and referred me on. And then when I have gone back to them, when their contracts have ended or whatever.
Absolutely great.
What was the other objections?
Yeah, brilliant. That's absolutely great, Hannah. That's really good. So the other one I was probably thinking of might be, okay, I'm happy to refer, but I don't want to give any names and numbers until I know I'm really happy with everything.
That's absolutely fine. So I'll just stick it in my diary to give you a call when your last service goes live and make sure you're happy. And then you can give me the names and numbers then. And then just do that. But just make sure you actually do that.
Yeah. And make sure you actually ask for them. That's the biggest thing. I think, just ask for them is the biggest hurdle to overcome. And like Hannah said, I think we get a bit panicky, I think, when we don't get them on the night and whatever. But as Hannah said, if you've kind of, like we do, we're so different to what else is out there. And I think if we go along and help that person with their sim or whatever it is, just remember to ask again, for referrals. Who else do you know who would, who I can go and see next? I think it is really just asking the question. But it's been absolutely fantastic, Hannah, and I know you are the referral queen. So the advice you're giving us is absolutely brilliant. And, you know, if people just stick to this system, it really, really does work. So we're on our half an hour now, Hannah. So I just want to say thank you very, very much for giving up your time and sharing those valuable tips with us.